today the Jewish cemetery and also, if I'm right, the rehabilitated Jewish ghetto in Warsaw as an emblematic interest point for Jewish community, and also our colleague from University of Lodz, Agata Dabrowska, will speak about the Jewish theater in Warsaw and the theater's role in the culture of Jewish community. Thank you.
Mostly, if we refer to the history of Jews in Poland, we usually speak about Holocaust, and Holocaust studies are very much developed in Poland. But the actually art, drama and the theater is going to be soon forgotten if it's not be treated in the way as other parts of the Jewish history. Today I'm going to talk about the unique role of the State Jewish Theatre in Warsaw, not about its artistic activity, but I treat the State Jewish Theatre in Warsaw as an institution of dialogue between Polish and Jewish minorities, between Polish and Polish nation and Jewish minority in Poland, and as well as an institution of promoting knowledge of the Jewish culture and tradition in Poland. My analysis will focus on three issues. First of all, I'm going to discuss theater activities and its intellectual, social and cultural context, relevance of the theater work for today academic researchers and institutions, and as well the role of theaters as educational and cultural institution in Poland. But before I start to talk about the contemporary theater, I just would like to briefly mention the history of Jewish theaters before the war. Jewish theaters were marginalized in Poland and were treated as kitsch. They were very often called szund, meaning trash, and although this negative view, Jewish stages developed rapidly in Poland, and just before the war we had several professional and non-professional groups playing in Yiddish language and as well in Polish language in more than 400 cities and towns in Poland. Jews also continued their work in ghettos, and for example by the end of 1941 there were around 5 professional theaters in Warsaw ghetto. 2 of them played in Polish language, 3 of them played in Yiddish language. Usually they staged dramas like vaudevilles, not really tragic dramas, but very vivid musicals. And of course the overwhelming majority of actors and audiences died during the Holocaust, but nevertheless Jewish theatre continued to manage a kind of afterlife in post-war Poland. However, the war experience caused the change in its general reception. Before the war, Jewish theatre was considered to be kitschy. After the war, the reviving Jewish culture was accompanied with the feeling of the necessity of commemorating war times and in particular the Holocaust. The mission was carried out, among others, by Ida Kamińska. She established the first and the only one post-war Yiddish theater in which in 1946, and later this theater was moved to Warsaw. Here we have the entrance of the State Jewish Theater in Warsaw in 50s. And the establishment of this institution was received as a forecast of the revival of the Jewish art, and the theater had to carry a special mission. First of all, it was supposed to reflect pain and longing, showing doubts and despair of the Jewish nation, reminding of the pre-war artistic life, and of course the most important mission of the Jewish theater was to commemorate of the past marked with mass graves and crematoria. The first play staged in the Jewish theater was Mirele Ethros, written by Ukrainian Jew, and this play had nothing to do with Shoah. It was written in 1898, based on William Shakespeare King Lear, and the main character was played by the principal of the theater, Ida Kamińska. And the title character is a businesswoman. She doesn't understand very well her son and daughter-in-law. That's why she decides to leave her family and live alone. However, she suffers from humiliation and rejection. So as we can see, the play had nothing to do with Shoah, but it was understood by the critics in that way. It was written in many newspapers that the production had a metaphorical dimension and referred to the tragedy of the Second World War, and of course, especially to the situation of the Jews. The tragic fate of the title character, Milere, symbolized the fate of the Jewish nation, which, I quote, like her, was subjected to a difficult test, paid with deaths of millions of people. So each production staged in the State Jewish Theater in Warsaw was written via Holocaust experiences. And this mission of commemorating the Jewish past has been conducted by the theater until now. Even in the last production debut, staged just a few months ago, just to explain in Jewish mythology, a debug is believed to be a dislocated soul of a dead person living in a host body until it has accomplished the goal. It is also the title of the play by Szymon Ański, which describe exactly the story that young woman called Leah is possessed by her malicious spirit of her dead fiancé, who is trying to stop Leah to marry another man. But of course, in this production of 2015, the play was also read via Holocaust experiences. The play was cutted, and the testimonies of Holocaust victims were implemented into this staging. So as Maja Kleczewska, the director of the spectacle, says, the main aim of my spectacle was to restore the memory of Polish Jews who died during Holocaust. So she used the book, the play from the 20s, just to explain that victims, according to the director, that victims of the Holocaust are like the books who cling to us forever. Our book is about the revival of the Holocaust victims. We give them the right to speak. We bring to the stage the testimony of witnesses who lived in Warsaw Ghetto. It in that context to describe the space of the spectacle. The spectacle was staged on Grzybowski Square in Warsaw, and before the war it was the center of pre-war Jewish quarter, and it was also the center of the Jewish ghetto. So this play had really a very significant role in commemorating the history of Polish Jews, especially of Jews who died during Shoah. But this mission of commemorating the past, commemorating the Holocaust, is not approved by everyone. Some critics says that it's not necessary anymore to stage dramas in Yiddish language because Jewish community is very small and only few percent of Jewish minority who live in Poland can understand Yiddish language. Critics says also that each spectacle is rather old-fashioned because it's like an attempt to stop the past. It is attached the strings of sentiment that contemporary member of an audience can treat this mission of the Jewish theater as outdated because people do not speak Yiddish language, do not know Yiddish tradition anymore. But the Jewish theater is not only the institution which commemorates the tragic picture of the Shoah, but it is also a very important institution for researchers in Yiddish studies because it has a great collection of posters, recording, pictures, and it's worth to mention that although we have several different institutions which have great collections of Judaica, but the theater very much is connected with Yiddish past, Yiddish tradition and Yiddish language. So this is the only institution which is promoting not only historical studies, historical context, but culture. Golda Tenzer, the producer of the theater, claims that the stage Jewish theater, according to her, is the monument of the Jews who used to live in Poland. It's the only public space where one can listen to Yiddish language. And it's a space where the Jewish life is still vibrating. But the Jewish state is also conducts its work as an educational institution, and due to initiatives of the headquarters, workshop and Yiddish language courses are organized. The Stage Jewish Theater established as well a few years ago the Jewish Open University. This is the university where students can participate in lectures devoted to Jewish history, tradition and culture, and later on they can use these credits, and those credits are counted in their normal educational system at the secular universities of Poland. The Jewish theater is also a very important institution which promote Yiddish culture not only in Poland but also abroad. And a great example of such activity is Festival of Jewish Culture in Warsaw, called Warszawa Zingera, Zingers Warsaw. The first festival was organized in year 2004. The festival includes Jewish, both Hebrew and Yiddish theater, music, films, exhibition, and it attempts to recreate Jewish culture from the period of interwar, complete with historical buildings and atmosphere. So, just to conclude, as we can say, the Jewish theater in Poland play a very important role as a cultural and educational institution in Poland. Its activities and achievements popularize Jewish heritage among Polish citizens, but not only in Poland, because the group of the State Jewish Theater is traveling all over the world. And there are only 3 theaters, Jewish theaters in Europe, yes, so this institution is pretty unique. And this institution is also important because it defines post-war Jewish identity in Poland. It's the only place where you can speak Yiddish as a language which is used not only for academic reasons, but this language is still present and still alive there. Thank you very much.